All right, thank you so much for being there. Of course, it's still Rise and Shine Daily, and we said that when we come back from that breather, we'll be joined by our guests to look at the issue of restructuring in Nigeria. Is it even possible for us to restructure this country? Why are some people looking at it or making it this difficult for restructuring? And more like, is it what we want at this time to move the country forward? But joining us to discuss this and many more is Jide Ojo, who is the Executive Director, Oja Development Consult, author, columnist with The Punch, host of Development Focus with Jide Ojo on ITV, and public affairs analyst. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Dennis. How are you? How is you today?
Uyo is fantastic. It's been raining all yesterday, so we woke up to very cold weather.
Very cold. Very
Happy
cold.
Easter.
Happy Easter to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining
I'm
us.
waiting for my Easter gift.
Oh, fantastic. It will definitely get to you. The high is Lagos this morning.
Well, I'm in Abuja. Abuja is fine.
Okay,
Abuja is cool.
Abuja. Sorry about that. I thought it was Lagos. Okay, so Uya is also here. Uya.
Good morning, Jide. Good to see you and have you on the show this morning.
My pleasure, beautiful sister. How are you?
Very fine, thank you. Okay. Serious conversations about restructuring Nigeria. There's a lot of clamoring, and
Yeah.
just after this particular round of election, we have now continue to see more people ask that the incoming administration looks squarely into restructuring. Now it's not even something that is starting with this particular administration. Several administration, I think the strongest will be from when the former president Olusegun Obasanjo was in office. He even put together a conference, and several other people have tried after him to let's look into restructuring. But Gina, this morning I know that a lot of times when we have some of these conversations, it just flies above people's heads, and people will just ask, what exactly is restructuring of Nigeria? What does it entail? What does it mean? So let's break it down for everyone first before we even go into the nitty-gritties of the conversation this morning.
All right. So, thanks much for the opportunity to be on your platform this morning. I greet the good people of Akwa Ibom State, the South Nigeria as a whole, and the entire country. Happy Easter to all our Christian brothers and sisters. May the risen Christ, may we have the blessings of Easter. And to our Muslim brothers and sisters who are observing Ramadan, I wish them Ramadan Kareem. So the issue of restructuring is an age-long agitation, particularly from the civil society and the media. It is generally believed, actually, when you look at uh, governance, there are three arms of government and there are three tiers of government, isn't it? So three tiers of government, you have the executive, we have the federal, the state, and the local government. And three arms of government, you have the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. So people have said, okay, um, in the First Republic, we practiced what was called Westminster parliamentary system, where people get elected into parliament, and from that parliament, you appoint someone to be the prime minister. And then, in under a Westminster or under a parliamentary system, you have what is called fusion of power. So, for you to understand the entire gamut of restructuring, you need to look at intergovernmental relations. How does government uh, relate vertically and horizontally? So vertically, you are talking of three tiers of government: federal, state, and local. Horizontally, you're talking about executive, legislature, and judiciary. Now, as I said, in the First Republic, we had parliamentary system of government, which is a government of primus inter pares. Primus inter pares means that everybody gets elected into parliament, and then the party that produces the highest, that wins the highest number of seats, get to form the government. And from this, you appoint one person, into an executive position as the prime minister, as we have seen in the case of Britain and several other countries that run parliamentary system of government. So you also appoint cabinet ministers from the parliament. So there is fusion of power because the executive and the legislative arm are fused into one in a parliamentary system of government, like I've tried to explain. Then in 1979, Nigeria moved to presidential system of government, where a candidate stands for the office, stands and run for the office of the president, and people get to vote directly for that candidate. Unlike the parliamentary system of government, you can remember that Richie Sunak didn't stand for election. Likewise, Liz Truss, likewise, Boris Johnson, likewise, several prime ministers of Britain, because they are appointed from the parliament. But in the presidential system of government, you have candidates, you have people who will stand for election directly, and that's what we have. Now, coming to the issue of restructuring, people have said, look, the terms and conditions upon which you have this governance is faulty. And part of what people have advocated is, look, for instance, Section 147, sub 3 of the Constitution, 174, sub 3 of the Constitution says you need to appoint. Are you listening to me, please?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, we are.
You need to appoint a minister from every state of the federation who must be an indigene of that state. Uya and Janice, does it make sense?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
That Nigeria with ailing economy, by virtue of that section 174(3) of the Constitution, says you must have a minister from every state. Meanwhile, we copied from US, the presidential system of government in US. Let me shock you, sisters. In US, there are only 15 secretaries. 15. They do not appoint ministers on state basis. They appoint ministers on the basis of what job is there to be done. So, US with better economy, US with over 300 million population, US has only 15 ministers. They call them secretaries. But Nigeria, that is ailing, that does not, that our debt is at the treasury of over 60 trillion naira. Nigeria must have minimum of 36 ministers because the Constitution says so. Let me shock you. The number of seats in a state assembly is minimum of 24, maximum of 40. Constitution prescribed it. Now, Bayelsa, which is an adjoining state to your state, Bayelsa has 8 local governments. Bayelsa have to subdivide each of the local government into 3 to meet that minimum threshold of 24 seats in the State House of Assembly. Meanwhile, Kano has 44 local governments. Kano have to merge some local government to come down to 40 seats. And people are saying this presidential system of government is wasteful.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Why must you have 40 member State House of Assembly? What are they doing? Why must you have minimum of 24? If you have 8 local government, why can't you have 8 State House of Assembly? One person representing each of the local government. And then you appoint a speaker, and after all, how many people were in Edo State House of Assembly from 2019? Only 10 of them have been running Edo State House of Assembly because the others refused to be inaugurated. You remember the face-off between the APC and PDP in Edo State, where during inauguration in 2019, some members were either shut out or didn't come for inauguration. And that's how Edo State House of Assembly has run under Obaseki for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
So what is sacrosanct that we must have minimum of 24 seats and maximum of 40 seats?
Okay, so
Then you
that
go, then you go to the number of ministries, departments, and agencies. We have over 1,000 MDAs. Over 1,000 MDAs drawing budget every year. So this is part of what restructuring agenda is supposed to take, that we need to tinker with the structure of this country. Do we even need 36 states, for instance? Must we have 36 states? But even if we have 36 states, did you recall that the last constitutional amendment, which is still ongoing, that some states are still seeking further division, that they still
exactly.
want Nigeria to have more states? In my part of Oyo State is demanding for Ibadan State. Anambra wants, what is the name of this, their own state. So many people, about 15 new states are being demanded. So must we, meanwhile, US that has 50 states, did you know that US has only 100-member Senate? They have 50 states, but only 2 senators represent each of the states, whether it's Vermont, which is one of the least populated states, or New York or California, that is very big. Every state in US has only 2 senators. Why must Nigeria have 3 senators? Why? What is the basis?
Okay, so Jide
And let
Ojo.
me shock you.
Okay.
Please, let me land on this.
All
Let
right.
me land on this here. Did you know that in Mauritania, in 2017, 2017, yes, they scrapped their Senate. Senegal in 2011 or thereabouts scrapped their Senate. They just go unicameral. After all the states in Nigeria has unicameral legislature. Why must we have bicameral at the center of what value? What value has Senate or House of Rep has? Or can't we have the number reduced from 3 senators to 2 senators or 1 senator per state? And the Senate, the House of Reps, do we need 360 members of House of Reps? Can't we have 240? You know, Italy, which is a developed country, some 4 or 5 years ago, Italy decided to reduce the number of their National Assembly by 1/3 to reduce cost of governance. So these are some of the things that we are also saying in Nigeria, that we need to reduce cost of governance, more so that we are a developing country, we are less productive, we do not have industrialization, and yet governance is taking over 80% of our revenue without value for money.
Okay, I think for those the proponents of restructuring, I just want to tell us about some of the things that they have actually talked that should also be part of what we are trying to restructure. Now, the devolution of powers to state is also one of those things that people are saying that, look, we need restructuring in the country. And then others have also raised very pertinent issues as resource control, state policing, and even federal character principle. And I think the federal character principle is one of the issues that have raised up that, there's that demand on the incoming government. So whatever it is you're doing in terms of appointments, make sure that it reflects the federal character principle. So just put us in the light of some of those things. And I know that, okay, the local government was that now yes, it's one of those things.
Autonomy.
Yes, autonomy of local government is one of those things that a lot of people are pushing. And let's not also forget that restructuring, it has called for a lot of secession. There's the Yoruba people that have the Arewa movement. Is it the Arewa? Yes, the Arewa movement now that are calling for secession. Yes, and then there's also the IPOB from the southeast that are also saying, look, we want our own Biafran country. Now, put us in the light of some of those things.
Okay, so Janice, the truth is this. All that you have said part of restructuring. You talk about resource control, fiscal federalism, and all of that.
Yes.
But you know, it's and then the federal character principle. If you read section 4 of the section 4 of the Constitution, it already has provision for federal character principle that for national unity and national cohesion, we should have federal character principle, but that is being misapplied. And that is to tell you that those who are also against the restructuring are of the opinion that it is not just about lawmaking and devolution of power. What about even when you devolve power? How does that help to reduce corruption? The fear now is that, okay, let me take the issue of state policing. State policing has been on the front burner for a long time. So much so that under this administration, a lot of people felt the way we can overcome our security challenges is to allow the states to have their own policing system.
Exactly.
And what people forgot is that in the First Republic, Nigeria, there was state policing, there was even local government policing. There was what is called LA police, local authority police, in the First Republic between 1960 and 1965. But you see, the abuse of these state police and local government police at that time made us to scrap them and come to say we need one federal policing system. It is because of abuse of the past. Many people don't know that political parties used to be regional and local government based in the First Republic. In fact, there was also provision for independent candidacy between 1960 and 1965. But because of the war, the Civil War of 1967 to 1970, that was why they have to scrap anything that is state or region or local authority, and everything seems centralized. But let me hasten to say this. The recent amendment, or what I will call alterations of the Constitution by the federal, by President Buhari, some 3-4 weeks ago, has taken care of some of the agitation for restructuring.
Okay.
For instance, there is now devolution of power on the issue of electricity. Electricity now, states cannot generate, transmit, and distribute their own electricity. Also, prisons. Prisons has also been moved from exclusive legislative list to concurrent legislative list. Also, railway, which has also been agitated, railway has now ceased to be on the exclusive legislative list and has been brought to concurrent legislative list. So these are some of the things, but it's just that it's happening incrementally. What many agitators are looking for is, in fact, they are saying let's have
Jide, sorry, let me bring you back a bit. Will you now say that some of these things, you know, that the president has removed from the from this list to the concurrent list is what is really affecting Nigerians? Is that the primary issue? Is that the primary issue?
It's part of it. It's part of it. See, you need to look at issue of restructuring holistically. Way back in the between 1979 and 1983, Lagos State wanted to have metro line. This same President Buhari was head of state then. He denied Lagos the opportunity to have metro line. He cancelled it. Had it been that this has been on concurrent legislative list, Lagos will have had metro line than the one they just say blue line, the red line that the Sanwo-Olu administration just completed now. So now we have legal backing. Look at the issue of Amotekun, the agitation around Amotekun, Ebubiagu, and all the security outfit. If there is a constitutional provision that devolves security and defense from the exclusive list to concurrent list, many states will have had a well-structured state policing system that could buy arms and ammunition to kit their state policing system. But because that is still on the exclusive legislative list, even when you set up state security outfits, you cannot get them to buy AK-47. Nobody will sell to the state. They can only sell to government, because even there was a point in time where the US refused Nigeria access to buy arms because they said they were misusing it to kill and maim innocent citizens. So what I'm saying is that, Janice, is part of it. It's not the whole of it. Look at the issue of fiscal federalism. Federal judiciary, federal legislature, that's National Assembly, have been on first line charge on consolidated revenue fund since 2010. But state judiciary and state legislature has remained as an appendage of the state government. They do not have independent funding. They do not have autonomy. That is why in 2018, that alteration that took place that now say that state assembly, state houses of assembly, and state judiciary will now draw their funds from first line charge of the state consolidated revenue. That's why it's very important. And you can see how the states stoutly resisted the implementation. Even when President Buhari came up with an executive of that time, they still took the federal government to court, which is why there was another alteration in this 2023 exercise, where there has been further alteration of the constitution to allow for state judiciary and state legislature to draw their funds from the state consolidated revenue fund. That is part of what is envisaged under fiscal federalism.
Okay.
That federal and state institutions will draw their funds as an autonomous body. They will have financial independence, unlike being at the mercy of the state governors or look at the issue of local government
and
autonomy.
we think that can happen in a country like Nigeria, where the governors are always wanting to interfere in some of those things. Especially, yes, you wanted to bring in the issue of local government autonomy. We've been talking about that and fighting about that for the longest of time.
So they have stoutly resisted the financial autonomy for local government.
Yeah.
Because many of the governors use local government funds, according to Section 162 of the Constitution, which we talked about state local government joint account, JAC, joint state and local government account. That has been grossly abused by the state governors. And you know why they don't want to let go. That JAC, that joint account of state and local government, many states, I don't know whether Akwa Ibom also set up or established what they call LCDAs, Local Council Development Authorities. Lagos started the LCDA scheme when in 2002, Lagos State created additional 37 LCDA to complement the 20 local government that is constitutionally recognized. And that was the basis by which Obasanjo withheld the local government funds of Lagos State under Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, that it was unconstitutional for Lagos State House of Assembly to have created LCDA, that's Local Council Development Authority. But the Supreme Court in its ruling said, no, State Assembly can actually create or legalize the establishment of Local Council Development Authority, just that for them to now be getting funds from the federal government, there must be consequential alteration of the Constitution to list those new local governments on the Constitution. Because as we speak, only 768 local government and 6 area councils are listed in the Constitution. And that is why what the governors have done with the joint state local government account is that when they receive funds, like in Lagos, they get funds for 20 local governments. Sanwo-Olu, as governor of Lagos State, will now redistribute these 20 local government funds into 57 places. So 20 local governments that were constitutionally recognized and 37 LCDAs that were not recognized by the federal government, they will now redistribute the funds to manage and ensure governance of this local. So that has been the reason why the state governors have refused to let go to allow for local government autonomy. And of course, because of poor funding of local government, even workers in local governments have not supported the local government autonomy, believing that if the local governments are allowed, if the state governors are not allowed to pay for the workers of local government, the local government will continue to hold them backlog of salaries, as we have seen. Because naturally, from the constitutional experience, primary health care centers are supposed to be paid for by local government. Primary schools are supposed to be paid for by local government. Local government administration, the bureaucracy of local government are supposed to be paid for from the funds of local government. But because of what I've told you, this re-engineering, social re-engineering, where governors will go ahead and set up or establish LCDAs, and now the funds that are meant for the local government that are constitutionally recognized are now further redistributed into both the local government and the LCDA. That's why they don't want to let go on the issue of local government autonomy.
Okay.
But what I'm saying invariably is that, you see, what the exercise from 2010 has been incremental. This alteration of the constitution is the 5th in the series since 2010. That's like how many years now? 13 years. We've altered the constitution 5 times to incrementally allow for fiscal federalism, to incrementally also allow for devolution of powers. Like I said, prisons now has ceased to be on the exclusive legislative list. Electricity has ceased to be on the exclusive legislative list. Railway has ceased to be on the exclusive list. And the one that warms my heart most is now the alteration of the constitution to mandate governors and the president to constitute their cabinet within 60 days. In my state of Osun, when Aregbesola was the governor, he did not constitute the cabinet in 1 year. He was running the state like a sole administrator. No commissioner in 1 year.
Okay,
Buhari
so
came in 2015.
because of time,
Buhari
because
came
of
in
time,
2015. It took Buhari 6 months to constitute his cabinet. 6 months. Now he has signed a constitutional alteration that says that as a president, you need to constitute your cabinet within 60 days. As a governor, you need to constitute your cabinet within 60 days, so that governance can run smoothly.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I like the fact that you even brought in, tried to break it down for a lot of us to understand, the wastage that is ongoing because of the kind of government that we practice. But let's ask this question now. Why is it that, there's a huge demand on on the incoming administration to see that restructuring is taken very seriously?
Now, it's because people see Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu as a Democrat. As a Democrat, someone who believes in rule of law, someone who has been a part of the demand for good governance. Don't forget, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu was in the forefront as a NADECO member. He was a NADECO member, National Democratic Coalition, and that was why the Abacha regime, wanting to arrest him, he and Wole Soyinka, Professor Wole Soyinka, and several others had to go on exile. And now, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu had been a senator since aborted Third Republic. He was senator in 1992. Recall, he was senator in 1992. And when he came back in 1998 to participate in the democratic return to civil rule in 1999, he became governor. And he was 2-time governor. He has produced so many godsons, political godsons, including the outgoing vice president of Nigeria. So people believe that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has the democratic credentials to see to the restructuring of Nigeria. Because, in fact, there was a time Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu spearheaded the formation of an organization called CODA. Coalition for Democratic Reforms, CODA. He was part of the financiers of CODA, which people believe now that he now has to put his money where his mouth is. That all those agitations he has participated in since the appointed Third Republic down to this Fourth Republic, he now has opportunity to implement them, and that they have high hopes in him to right the wrongs of the. Look at the issue of IPOB, the issue of self-determination. It is believed that rebellion cannot exist without a feeling that somewhere in some way you are justified. The reason why IPOB is gaining traction today is because of the perceived injustices against the Southeasterners.
Exactly,
particularly the non-implementation of the federal character principle. Why should there be lopsided in appointment and citing of projects? Recall that President Buhari said in 2015 on CNN with Christian Amapo, he said, look, those who give him 95% of the vote and those who gave him 5% of the vote will not be equally treated. And he's supposed to be the father of all. So what is believed now is that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, being a Democrat, being an activist, being somebody who has even sponsored bills, whose wife, in Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, we got two for the price of one. He's a former senator, former governor. His vice president is a former governor, former senator. His wife is a former senator. So these three already have links with the Senate. So when you want to alter the constitution, they have allies within the National Assembly. And that's why Janice Anuya, that's why Asiwaju will be interested in who becomes the next president of the Senate, who becomes the next Speaker of House of Reps.
Yes.
That's a separate conversation.
So let's bring it in. Bring it in, Uya,
because it's a strong one. We've continued to see the fight, and I mean, it's literally an Emilokon activity also going on there. The likes of Odjuz Okalu saying it's his turn for him to be the Senate president. It's good that you have brought it up. So just expatiate on it. Let's see. Is
it that it's a compensation now from Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu to Odjuz Okalu to compensate for what has happened to the Southeast?
Or are we even looking at Tinubu making a different pick entirely from the push of Odjuz Okalu for that particular seat?
Let's not forget also, Jide Ojo, that, there has been other minority groups in Nigeria that have also been marginalized along those lines. If we are even saying that we should go for a Southeasterner as the Senate president, let's go back in time to find out how many people have been Senate president from the Southeast. What about states like Rivers State? What about states like Akwa Ibom State? What about states like Cross River State? These are minority groups that haven't produced a Senate president before. So when we're talking about even federal character principle, why not let it be all-inclusive?
Okay, so first and foremost, you need to understand that power is not served a la carte. We need to fight for it. You need to lobby. You need to negotiate. And I believe, South has produced former Senate President Joseph Wires of blessed memory. I hope
that is still in the UK and the government cannot bring his corpse down here for a proper burial. It's quite shameful.
I just offered the prayer now that I hope they will find money to bring his corpse for burial.
It's really shameful, sir.
I'm just reminding you, my sister, that Joseph Wire has come from South. And of course, we have also had Godmewume Ezeoke from Southeast as Speaker. So the issue is this: compensation, political compensation is not new and it's not peculiar to Nigeria. There's what is called quid pro quo. Quid pro quo is, what I will liken that to is rub my back, I rub your back. If politics is all about game of interest. That's why there is no permanent friendship, there is no permanent enmity. Only interest is permanent. You think what Governor Nyesom Wike did? He didn't know what he was doing when he supported APC to win on February 25th and then come around 3 weeks after to corner all the other seats for PDP. He knew what he was doing. He knew that, he is serving out his second and final terms. For him to be in a position to negotiate for something under the government of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, they want to see, what did you do for us? So it's all about trade-off. Politics is about trade-off. And it's not always a game of emotion. Because, look, I don't know whether you've seen these journeys. Nigeria has over 350 tribes. 350 tribes. How do you sort out everybody? 350. Emilokon, yes, it's our turn. In fact, did you know that this Emilokon was not peculiar to Asiwaju? There is a group, the Christians in Nasarawa State. They have a say in their local parlance, Ombashe. Ombashe is, it is our turn. That's what it means in their local language. And I recall that some years ago, when Labaramaku was the Minister of Information, the Christian-dominated part of Nasarawa State said, Ombashe, that is our turn. It's our turn to produce the governor. And this is part of what we are talking about under restructuring, that let's alter the constitution to allow for power rotation. Let's allow for alteration of the constitution to recognize power rotation within states and within the federation. Because you've raised a very salient point. If you go by the number of Senate presidents that Southeast has produced, out of 14, they have produced 7. They have produced half of the Senate president. The Benue people who are minority has produced Joseph, Uyochayu. They've produced this other one that didn't stay. I've forgotten, about 2 or 3 from Benue State as served as Senate president. So what we are saying is that let's alter the constitution to recognize power rotation within the state. Did you know? I don't know the experience in Cross River or Akwa Ibom. Now, let me cite you some examples. In Ogun State, the Yewa Awori people of Ogun State, who are in the Ogun West, has never produced a governor in Ogun State. In Oyo State, the people of Oyo North, Shaki, Ishayin, and the rest, Kishi, has never produced a governor. Yet, if not for the sake of senatorial representation, that is 3, perhaps they will never also add a senator. Now, come to Kogi State. The people of Kogi West, who are the Okun people who speaks Yoruba language, has never produced governor. That's why if you watch the interview of somebody like Senator Smart Adeyemi, he is saying, in the last 32 years of Kogi State, there has not been one person from Kogi West that has been governor. It has been the Igala in Kogi East, or where Yaya Bello comes from, which is Kogi Central. And even before the advent of Yaya Bello, there has been Adamu Ata in Second Republic, when in the old Kwara State, Adamu Ata is an Ebira. He has been the governor in Second Republic. But no one person from Kogi West has been a governor. The same thing in Benue State. The Idomas, who are the second largest ethnic group, tribe in Benue State, has never produced a governor, let alone talking of Igede or other minority groups.
The conversation.
This Emilokon principle goes around every state. If you drill down, you'll find out that there's dominion and domination in each of the states. And that's why there's this call for alteration of the constitution to allow for power to rotate among the 3 senatorial districts. If this senatorial district has produced a governor for 8 years, let the power move to another. Maybe from north, you move to, look at Enugu State. The same thing is happening in Enugu
we're very,
State.
very sure that this conversation is more elaborate, but we have absolutely run out of time.
Even let me learn on this.
Okay.
Even in, I just cited Enugu.
Yes.
Even there's this other state that I wanted to mention, which I just forgot. So it's pan Nigeria that people felt marginalized because they have not been allowed access to power. And
All right.
that's because of the abuse of the federal character principle that talks about that there must be no domination because of the
Okay.
need for national unity and national cohesion. And that
Okay,
is
All right.
what has
Jide,
led to
Okay.
the
time
agitation
We
is
of
absolutely
against
have
us.
to wrap this up
Yes,
this
yeah, please
morning.
just ask your last question and
No,
let's
there's
just put it.
absolutely no need to ask
Okay.
another question. There's a lot more we can always talk about restructuring. Probably we'll have Jidojo, back
Again.
another time because we are out of time. But it's been such a great conversation with you this morning, mostly educating, falling back on history to know where and how far we can go. But we will certainly have this conversation again because there's a lot of people that are against restructuring and they
Exactly.
have their reasons for standing against it. That's a part of conversation we have not covered today. Today we have seen a lot of there's more light as to why the country should be restructured. So definitely we'll have you on this conversation some other time. This is a big thank you to you, Jide Joe, for coming on set with us on Rise and Shine this morning to have this conversation.
My regards to your families, and please have fun on this Easter celebration.
All right.
Thank you so much. It's always a
Great
pleasure to
time.
have you on set. But this is the much we can take on the conversation this morning. It has been really educating to see that a lot of people are clamoring for restructuring. And I like the fact that he has also made mention of the fact that what's the type of governance we are operating in Nigeria is quite wasteful. It's not something that we need to reiterate. It's what is happening at the moment. But just like I said, we'll definitely have Jide Ojoro again to look at those that are against restructuring and why they are against it as well. But this is where we draw the curtains on the show this morning. Thank you so much for being a part of it. We'll see you again tomorrow. Until then, be good and be good citizens of the country. My name is Janice Kabum. Bye-bye for now.
My name is Uya Eneka. We do hope that you enjoy the rest of your public holiday. Of course, stay tuned to Spectrum Television and enjoy the rest of our programming. We leave you now to Sports Central.